You've always been there.
Waking, stimulating, guiding.
So does that mean angels have intervened in human evolution?
Yes,
But why?
vengeance.
They're trying to alter the creation of the Lord. Like, God created us, we're his greatest creation, he loves us so much, and the enemy, who can't create anything, is trying to pervert. He's trying to pervert what we are, and they're trying to create new beings, these artificial intelligence beings. And I feel like am I crazy to believe that there's global elites that are coming together, to create a new race of mankind?
People are being injected with genetic material and gene editing material that allows for the integration of genetic material from other species, non-human species. So that includes, as we know now, with the snake venom peptides, not just mammals, but also reptiles. It also allows for the integration of inorganic material or organic chemistry. So things like the graphene oxide. So this is definitely a demonically inspired plan. There's no gray area. And I think what's happened, Lauren, is Satan is the ruler of chaos, right? And the father of all lies. So, all of us have been good intentioned, but, at the beginning, we were looking for something, we were looking for some truth and something that had no truth in it. And we're trying to make logic out of something that's based in chaos.
This goes all the way back to the early days of Noah. I believe it is Nephilim inspired technology. You said it's demonic. It is, because these people, they're operating in that same darkness. Of course, they're being influenced by something. I believe that these global elites are taking direction from these demonic influence, this Nephilim technology. We have hybrid animals. Things were really bad back in the days of Noah before God decided. It must have been really bad, because I look around and I think it's bad now. But, it's the same demons, same technology, but it's, a different time. We're more advanced now. What if they're trying to create bodies for them to dwell in, for these demons, these bodiless, soulless demons to inhabit, a body, and they're trying to create, and they're working and they're influencing with the global elite with this Nephilim technology that they brought down to the earth, and they're influencing these evil, vile Luciferians who participate in these same rituals, who communicate with them just like you and I communicate. And they're influencing them on how to create a whole new mankind, a whole new human race that they can inhabit, that they can control, these bodies that they can control.
None of them are related to me. None of them.
No. But there's one just like you every generation somewhere.
Great Polypheme. So sacrifice one eye to save us all.
a state of being or a physical place?
Yes.
I think I meant that as an either or.
It's both, which is painfully obvious to anyone who's ever been there. For years without measure, that's all there ever was. Heaven and hell. Armed enemy camps in complete opposition. That is until you were created. Your creation was nothing but a slap in our face. But my master also understood that if he could make man disobey, then his fate would mirror ours. And you didn't disappoint. Then came the tares among the wheat. In that moment, spirit became matter, flesh became a vessel. Self-will and self-seeking began a lusting after sin and impurity. And man, created to be king over nature, became its slave. The master conquered and fettered. And sin brought him and his descendants to us. And we began our forever mission to destroy you.
We're mutilating children and celebrating it. Have we gone mad? What would possess us to do this? This goes to the mystery behind Pride Month. When a nation turns away from God and drives his spirit out of its culture, its house will not stay empty. Other spirits will come in and will possess it and transform it. When I wrote The Return of the Gods, I identified those spirits, ancient spirits that are now at work possessing and transforming America. One is called the Enchantress. In her ancient Mesopotamian inscriptions, it is written that she turns men into women and women into men. Her priesthood were called the Asinu. They were men who walked around her temples dressed up as women, and to whom parents brought their children to see them perform dance. This goddess, who altered sexuality and gender, was linked to the sign of the rainbow. There's a dark secret to the rainbow that I reveal in the book that would cause anybody to have second thoughts about waving it or hanging it on the White House. Now, the rainbow does not belong to man or to any movement or to any sin. The rainbow belongs to God. But the goddess was actually known in her writings for stealing that which belonged to other gods. So for the White House or anyone to use the rainbow of God against the will and ways and purposes of God is a most dangerous thing. And do you want to know the mystery of Pride Month? There was one month of the year that the spirit of the goddess especially possessed the culture, the ancient month of Tammuz. In The Return of the Gods, I quote the ancient writer Saint Jerome, identifying the month of these celebrations as the month of, in Latin, Iunium, or in modern English, it was the month of June. And she was known as the goddess of pride, so the month of Pride, Pride Month. And she was the goddess of parades, in which she caused men dressed as women and women as men to parade through the city streets. You see, when you turn away from God, this is what happens. Jesus warned of it. Your house will become repossessed by the spirits that were cast out. And so it has. It's either God or this.
He's the one that was talking about seeing the giants in the deep underground military bases. He said that one of the first things that they had to do before he was allowed to go into S4 or S20 or any of the others, they made him sign an affidavit saying, you're not allowed to use the name Jesus Christ in these underground facilities, not even if you stub your toe or anything. And he said that he saw 10 to 25 foot tall giants in these underground bases and said that they were, the human scientists and other people working side by side with them. He said that they even came right out and said they were the Nephilim. They came right out and said it. Said that, basically we're preparing for an intergalactic war with God. And they believe that they're going to win.
Where are they getting this they're going to win from?
When they come and the Christians disappear from extermination, all they're going to do is tell them. I seen this in a script in a paper that I looked at. I was at S4. It said that the Christians will disappear, we'll exterminate them, and we'll lie to the public and convince them that we gave them to they call them undesirables, and we gave them to the space beings in exchange for information so they could do experimentation on them. Never seen, but these Nephilim, they're very intelligent. And let me tell you how powerful the word Jesus Christ is. We were not allowed, we had to sign a document and swear an oath that we were not allowed to use the name of Jesus Christ under those tunnels, not even in anger.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's how powerful his name is.
Beautiful.
Now, would the name Jesus get the aliens upset? I mean,
It
is
made
that
them
one?
go berserk. It tortured them.
But wouldn't aliens be considered a form of a creation? Of
Yeah,
God
they
too?
are a form of creation,
Yeah,
but they're evil.
Yes.
Their intentions are evil. They worked with Hitler all those years. We found documents that they're still, believe it or not, we're still, to this day, going through the documents of Hitler. That's how many things he did. And I always wondered why tyrants like Hitler and Saddam Hussein, why would you want to keep documents of your atrocities? But at any rate, he's got documents of his atrocities, but this UFO, Von Braun was in on it. Von Braun, he was in on it real heavy, and they had managed to get the craft to work, I guess, with one of these beings at 6,000 miles an hour, 10,000 miles an hour, and one at 12,000 miles an hour.
Bel, spelled B-E-L, is usually pronounced Bel, but both Strong in his Hebrew dictionary and Fariabin in his prefer to say Baal. The word is probably the contracted form of some other Hebrew word, commonly pronounced Baal and spelled B-A-A-L, and he was worshipped by the Babylonians as their chief deity. At the top of the next column, we read that Baal signifies Lord or Master. Alone, the word applies to the sun god. With Jah and On, it has been introduced into the Royal Arch system as a representative of the Tetragrammaton. In the Royal Arch degree, that's part of the York Rite, the secret name of God is supposedly revealed. It is Jebulon. Jah stands for Jehovah, Bull stands for Baal, and On is a corruption of Osiris. The god of the Masonic Lodge is identified with Baal and Osiris. Yahweh, the God of the Bible, would not be pleased to be associated with them. We see that Masonry apparently worships several gods. Osiris and Baal are among them. There is one God which they refuse to worship, and that is Jesus. I'm going to show you some text on page 65 of The Lost Keys of Freemasonry by Manly Palmer Hall. Hall writes, "The true Mason is not creed-bound. He realizes with the divine illumination of his lodge that as a Mason his religion must be universal. Christ, Buddha, or Mohammed, the name means little, for he recognizes only the light and not the bearer. He worships at every shrine, bows before every altar, whether in temple, mosque, or cathedral, realizing with his truer understanding the oneness of all spiritual truth." So we see that the true Mason is an idolater. He worships any god at any altar. We can be certain that the God which Masons have conscious union with is not God the Father because of what Jesus said. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me.
at Stonehenge this morning for the summer solstice. I may regret this, but I want to take you inside the stone circle. It's only twice a year during the summer solstice and the winter solstice you're allowed to come inside, and it's a real hive of activity. It was quiet this morning, people meditating. Once the sun had risen, then there was music and there was singing, and now there's sort of this carnival atmosphere here inside, and this is believed to be a sacred place for the Druids. They come here as for spirituals, they come here for ceremonies, and they also come here, very importantly, to worship the sun that has just risen for the solstice.
Underneath Satan, there are what we call the 5 generals. The 5 generals are the 5 demons that are immediately hierarchically underneath Satan, and they are the ones who execute his plans. In some cases, they call it the table, because it's basically they get to divide up certain things. The first demon under him is Baal. Baal, now, Satan actually is the demon of impurity, but Baal is a demon of impurity. His principal function is to get cultures to succumb to impurity, primarily through fornication. Once the fornication sets in, then what happens is that the perspective that the conjugal act is ordered towards children is lost. From that arises the idea that sex should be recreational and that you can use it for any way you get pleasure, that's fine. So Baal lays the groundwork. We saw this in our own country. It was called the free love movement. He lays the groundwork. The next thing he tries to do is, although in our country he managed to pull something off that was rather extraordinary. The next thing is after that, as we read from St. Paul, God delivers men and women up to their lusts, and men will start to want to sleep with men and women with women, which basically means what? Once the spirit of fornication sets in, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, in the New Rite, they removed this from the spirit of fornication, deliver us from the Litany of Saints, at the very time that the free love movement gained ascendancy. What we pray for is what we get. You don't pray for it, you're not going to get it. After that, then what happens is the culture, the next 3 demons show up. The first is Asmodeus. He's the demon of homosexuality in men. Then there's the demon of Leviathan, which is the demon of homosexuality in men, but of the masculine kind. These are the women who are heavy on the heels, we would say. Okay. Then there is the spirit of Lilith, which is the more seductive form of female homosexuality. After those have gained ascendancy in a culture, which, by the way, if you look at the cultures, every single culture is pushed in this direction. Okay. So, historically, not just ours, but historically, this is always the progression. Once you have fornication, you end up with contraception, and then the upshot of that is homosexuality, and then abortion. Baphomet is the 5th one, and he's the demon of child sacrifice, abortion. In our culture, think of this. They shot down the fornication laws, and so they delivered us into the hands of Baal. Then they had Roe versus Wade and delivered us into the hands of Baphomet. And then they allowed gay marriage, and so now our country politically is in the hold of the top 5 demons in hell other than Satan. They delivered us into their hands. That's where we're at. Extreme anger is the domain of the demon Isis. And the reason it's his domain is because Isis, his fall was precipitated by the fact that he refused to accept Christ's mercy for men. And as a result of that, he became the most cruel, vicious demon you ever have to deal with. He's even worse than Satan in a certain sense. Satan has his own set of characteristics that you have to deal with. But this guy is just cruel and vicious. But that tells you that he drives these particular things. And as you begin to have a vice, you start building this compatibility with the demon, and you become easily manipulatable.